Good evening, folks. Here we are again with the Factivist Report. We're going to call this particular episode the Great Right-Wing Paranoia episode. Because, for lack of a better term, we're going to go over a bunch of stuff, like globalization and the Great Reset, which is actually quite real. But I just want to tell you that it's not what you think it is, because you're being fed bullshit by the right wing. And then we're going to talk a little bit about executive orders and some of the stuff that Congress has done. And this is all in preparation for more detail next week. Let me just say that. And at the very end, we're going to go through the website a little bit. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get there. But right now, we want to kick this meeting off immediately. Dave.
Everybody, the Great Reset is real. There, I got my little TikTok video. The Great Reset is real. So, all right. What I want to start with is this idea of globalization, and is it all bad? We live in a big world now. We do not live in 1776, as Deb says, as Trump wanted to put us back into with one of his executive orders.
And by the way, that's where the right wing wants to put us again. And guess what? I, for one, don't want to go back to 1776. Thanks a lot. I know we have our problems now, but you know what? Yeah, I'll take it.
Please understand, I am not, indoctrinated, and I'm not completely taken by the Democratic Party, but I now see the Republican bullshit machine for what it is, and I see what they're doing. So I want to show you what they're doing. You can make up your mind for yourself, but we're going to continue this message. They're full of it. They really are. And there are reasons other than altruistic ones that Trump did what he did and got away from globalization and all of that. And by the way,
they're self-serving, by the way.
A lot of it was self-serving, and the right wing has its own global agenda. And if you really worship WikiLeaks and Julian Assange as much as you think you do, you should look at The Last Dump. We actually did a show August 15th of 2021. You could take a look at that show as well. I have a link to the WikiLeaks files. So the Intolerance Network, a global effort
by
against
the right wing.
By the right wing.
Fascism worldwide. So people, understand that what's going on here right now on the fascist front is part of that global agenda.
Just saying. All right. So this is a WikiLeaks, just a very basic description of democratic globalization, social movement towards an institutional system of global democracy.
Right. We should be clear about this. Democratic globalization does not mean it started by the Democratic Party. It's
correct.
It's democratic is being used as a generic term here.
Right. It's a way to try to get countries to cooperate with one another, quote unquote, make people closer and more united. The thing is, countries are going to need one another for trade and things of that nature. Now, I'm not saying all trade agreements are good. I happen to not agree with the Trans-Pacific Partnership or NAFTA. There are issues in terms of regulations, and other countries don't have proper regulations, but you go through all that stuff. Okay, so there are certain organizations that people really cringe about. The democratic globalization movement started to get public attention when the New York Times reported its demonstration to contest a World Trade Organization meeting in Seattle, Washington, in November of 1999, which I'm going to read in a minute. The gathering was to read some of it. The gathering was to criticize unfair trade and undemocratic globalization of the WTO, World Bank, and World Economic Forum, and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. The primary tactics were public rallies, street theater, and civil disobedience, which, by the way, some of this Deb and I have done.
Correct. And no doubt we will again when need be.
This is a November 27th article, 1999. This is the one they're talking about, Catherine Finkelstein, 45 arrested in a protest against capitalism. And some of this, I agree with some of their sentiments on this. 400 young anti-capitalists held a roving protest in Manhattan yesterday afternoon that blocked traffic, resulted in 45 arrests because they were blocking traffic. The event, called Buy Nothing Day, does that sound familiar to anyone?
Does it? Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me just intersperse here a little bit. How many times do we try to get people to boycott? You know, you can't be anti-capitalist and refuse to buy from Amazon and not refuse to buy from Amazon when we say to you, stop buying Amazon. You can't be anti-capitalist when you won't put yourself out to inconvenience yourself to do some of these things. Part of being anti-capitalist means you too.
Right. Now, some of the stuff I did I saw them do in this article, wearing ties with images of dollar bills, pink feather boas, blah, blah, blah. That's all good, but you have to back it up with not buying stuff. So, And I'm not saying they didn't, but protesters who did not have a permit, and by the way, little secret, neither did Deb or, in any protest that I've ever seen her at. They started at Union Square, moved to Times Square, continued to Bryant Park at 42nd Street. These guys were hardcore. That's a lot of walking, actually. Yeah. So one of the protesters basically made the comment that in a week, the World Trade Organization will decide some huge economic issues without asking us and just corporations and CEOs. This is an organization that does not have elected officials. You can't control them. They're above the law of the country. They do what they please. Another protest who gave his name as Pogo and wore a red clown nose with an orange wig said he was demonstrating the loss of individual and community power to organizations, which, okay, I get that.
Now let's fast forward. This is 1999, right?
Yep.
Let's fast forward to 2020, 2021, and 2022. I don't want to hear anything about fucking community because nobody in this country can care enough about anybody else to put a mask on, to fucking do what it takes to mitigate disease. You know what? Now we're the all encompassed I, me, mine generation. So when you tell me when you're ready to be a community here in the United States, when you're ready to take your neighbor into consideration for the shit that you do. That's what I want to know. I live in a condo. I have to take my neighbors into consideration. Okay. I can't listen to my music the way I used to in my house. Okay. There's a lot of things that I can't do. That's life.
Right. Now, some people liked Donald Trump because he basically shunned the WTO. World Trade Without Rules, U.S. shuts down WTO Appeals Court. This is by Jimmy Keaton and Paul Wiseman on December 10th, 2019. The reason Trump didn't want this is because they were trying to regulate his international taxing of steel. So I am just saying that one U.S. rep said we are in a crisis moment for our global trading system. She sat on the, I don't know if she's still there, Stephanie Murphy, who sits on the House and Ways Subcommittee of Trade, as tomorrow the court will cease to exist. So there were no rules. Panel is supposed to have 7 judges. Their ranks have dwindled because the United States under Presidents George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Trump have blocked new appointments to protest the way the WTO does business. So,
does that sound familiar?
and we went through this. We went through that with the commission, the sentencing commission last week.
Right.
Okay. So again,
right.
Trump didn't
blamed a Supreme Court nominee for the fact that there is no sentencing commission to deal with the sentencing regulations. You know, how does that work? Just because Donald Trump didn't feel like appointing anybody.
Right.
He was too busy, taking away transgender people's rights.
I'm looking for the there we go. So here we go. Among the disputes left in limbo are 7 cases that have been brought against Trump's decision last year to declare foreign steel and aluminum a threat to U.S. national security and to hit them with import taxes. Guess what Trump produced with his company? Yes, steel and aluminum. So I'm just saying.
Dear friends, there is the problem with electing a fucking businessman to the highest job in the land.
Okay, so apparently this was April 8th. This was Friday. I'm going to mutilate this name. I apologize to Sodiksha Kochi of USA Today. Fact check. Fake World Economic Forum tweet about meat and property spreads online. Okay. Basically claiming that the chairman said that eating meat and owning property are unsustainable. However, they do talk about something that is real, that the World Economic Forum introduced called the Great Reset. Do you have a thunderclap? Oh,
no, I can imagine that the right-wing underwear is in pinwheel mode right now, just gloating over the fact that, yes, there is a real Great Reset going on. Unfortunately, it is not what the right wing has portrayed it as.
This is the World Economic Forum's statement on the Great Reset. There is an urgent need for global stakeholders to cooperate in simultaneously managing the direct consequences of the COVID-19 crisis, which does exist, by the way. To improve the state of the World Economic Forum is starting the Great Reset Initiative. There, I did the thunderclap again.
Government, by the way, okay?
Right. And also, they do mention global warming, which also exists. So this was recent. I believe this was, April 10th. So World Economic Forum readies Davos meeting in May. Over 300 public figures are expected to attend. Believe it or not, the United States is not the focus. It's India.
Right.
And certain things that are happening in that part of the world. We are not always the focus, just so people know. So this is the World Economic Forum website. Now, I understand that a lot of this is profit-driven, but guess what? In order to create innovations and do research, you do need to create revenue. Just so you know.
And by the way, if any of you geniuses out there know a better way to make all of this happen without money, you let us know anytime now.
I've heard people complain about NGOs, about how they're not helpful. But here's the thing, too. If first off, there's so many out there. I'm sure there's some bogus ones. I'm not arguing that. But if there weren't so many problems, you wouldn't need so many NGOs.
Right.
By the way. So we have.
See, unfortunately, the world is only getting bigger. Okay.
Yep. The Ukraine nonprofits, helping build billions in wealth for working families by 2030. 2030 is a big, thing.
Yeah, that's the new.
That's the new buzzword.
Yeah, that's the new. 2021 thing. Now we're doing 2030, so we're going to get all paranoid all over again. We get a whole new set of paranoia coming out. We'll be in. Look for FEMA camps. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
How to gain public trust in healthcare companies again, how to deal with the waste, climate, the UN. I know people don't care for the UN either, but you know what? If they're saying things that are true, I'm just saying we're on a course to double the 1.5 Celsius global warming limit agreed in Paris in 2015. According to the IPCC report, and we will talk about the Paris Accords in a minute. But don't worry about it. Your hero is coming to criticize the World Economic Forum.
Of course he is.
Elon Musk slams corporatist moralism of ESG pushed by the World Economic Forum.
And I'm gonna fucking criticize his bullshit too. He is undoubtedly one of the biggest bullshit artists on the planet. Okay. He is the most wealthy right now. He is the wealthiest man in the world. And it's amazing to me how when that was Bill Gates, none of you could give him the time of day, but you think Elon Musk is great. And I'm mystified by all of that, quite frankly. Maybe because he smoked weed on camera. I don't know what the fucking reason is, but he's bad juju. Okay.
I am increasingly convinced that corporate ESG is the devil incarnate. Musk said in a Twitter reply, joking that not doing laundry complies with this criteria. Look,
whatever.
This is an article, and I have two articles in here as kind of the right-wing response to some of the things that we're talking about. The Daily Wire is a right-wing outlet. See?
Mr. Shitbag.
It's Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Okay. So just understand where this is coming from.
And just understand, by the way, that Elon Musk is right-wing. Okay.
Yep.
Look at the top right there. Make code TPM for 66% off My Pillow.
My Pillow.
You can save some money on those shitty, crappy ass pillows.
Let's go to a real news source for a second. Tracking Biden's environmental actions. Like him, don't like him. He has done, in recent years, some pretty historical stuff in terms of his environmental action. Just so you know, I just trying to reverse some of the things that Trump did was a big enough task on its own. So Biden rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement, promised to have the nation's greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, which, you know what? He can't keep that promise if people aren't committed to it, just so you know. He can't just snap his fingers and let it happen. And we'll talk a lot about some of the stuff that he's had to do, mostly in reversing some of the Trump executive actions. So the latest one, limiting state and tribal input under the Clean Water Act. Biden officials filed notice of intention to revise a Trump-era rule that weakened the ability of states and tribes to object to federal project approvals under the Clean Water Act.
I'd like to say something about the stuff like that. You know, it's not the same thing, but I was working at Millipore when the Safe Drinking Water Act went into effect in 1974. Up until that point, people drinking water out of the tap, it was a fucking, you know, adventure. Let's just say that.
Yep.
My company was instrumental in helping to bring the standards for safe drinking water together for that legislation, because that's what my company started out as doing before they got into all the life science research. Was they produced filters that allowed scientists to test drinking water and grow bugs on it so they could make sure it was safe to drink. All of this shit is real world stuff, okay? It's not, you know, just a way for people to make money, okay?
Yep.
It's being done for the public health. Again, I'm going to keep going back to that term, public health.
Now, by the way, if you notice, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because you guys get to read. It's only targeted April 6th, 2022. Then you have proposed actions, and then the last overturned one, setting CO2 standards for cars and SUVs. Biden administration tightened fuel efficiency and greenhouse gas standards for the nation's cars, pickup trucks, and SUVs that were weakened by Trump to reach an average of roughly 49 miles per gallon by 2026. And by the way, that is flying in the face of car manufacturers. Just so you know.
Right.
Which leads us to one of Deb's favorite organizations of all time, the Heritage Foundation.
Oh, God.
Because Biden is taking on industry in certain ways, of course, you're going to have groups like this slamming his climate policy. They're talking about, he shouldn't have joined the Paris Accords because China's not going to meet the standards anyway. Well, you know what? We got to give it a shot.
Well, you know what? We didn't meet the standards under Trump either, okay? Because, hello?
And
by the way,
so,
we're talking about the fact that all of these billionaires, like, now I hear Tom Brady, and in addition to what's his name there, Bezos.
Yeah,
I hear Tom Brady's now bought a yacht that's bigger than the Titanic.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that being a Titanic problem for the environment, are we? No, of course not.
By the way, I believe that he bought that yacht with his small business loan, coronavirus business loan money too.
Could be. He really needed that money. He wasn't making enough.
So this is from Patriot Rising, another right wing. Biden's globalist agenda sees Americans suffering from gas prices and more. Yes, he stopped the Keystone Pipeline.
You're right.
From pumping. How many people were injured or were involved in that protest? Okay, how many people didn't want that?
Right.
How many people who were on that land didn't want that? So, and on top of that, now we have, all sorts of other things going on, Ukraine and all of that. Right. So let's just blame Biden. Why not?
Well, yeah, it's election season. They're going to blame him for everything. So,
right.
No, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you people can certainly understand what's going on here. We're not importing oil anymore from Russia. It's a perfect opportunity for the oil companies to gouge you. It's just the way it goes. I mean, it's
right.
The way it is. How about this? You know what? We had somebody coming in the other day. No lie. looking for a tire gauge so they could maximize their gas driving, their gas, usage. If they keep their tires elevated, inflated to the right thing, will save gas. This is seriously. We had a serious run. We sold 8 tire gauges in 2 days. We haven't sold 8 in a fucking year. Okay.
Right.
So, I got an idea. Drive less. How's that? Okay. I don't know what to tell you.
So guys, we did a couple of shows on this, and we have spoken at length about WikiLeaks. By the way, if you respect WikiLeaks and their work, and if you respect Julian Assange, and you want to support Julian Assange, read what they put out. They put last year, the last dump that they put out was something called the Intolerance Network, which was a global right-wing movement
to spread hate.
To spread hate against gays.
Everybody.
A lot of it, yeah, and against everybody. But it was anti-LGBTQ and other hateful actions.
Yeah, well, basically anyone who doesn't fit under the right-wing mantra of acceptance.
Right.
And by the way,
yeah.
I really do think a lot of the support of Julian Assange is trendy. I'm sorry, but I have asked people to tell me what the most important part of WikiLeaks is, and half of these people haven't even fucking looked at WikiLeaks. So, you know what? I don't want to hear it anymore. You all talk about him like he's a hero. He's a hero. If he's a hero to you, it's because you've read what he's put out, not because people are trendy and talking about him online for hours on end. You know what? If you're not going to read this shit, then you're useless to Julian Assange. How's that?
Julian Assange put out material that criticized both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and other governments, by the way. So the fact that he...
By the way, their first drop ever was on China and Russia.
Yep.
So you know.
So understand that there is a global
right-wing agenda.
And we also,
the names like Jair Bolsonaro and Erdogan, Macron, do they all sound familiar to you? They're all cut from the same cloth as Donald Trump. This is a world movement.
How about Steve Bannon?
How about that?
Who met with some of these world fascist leaders, and what his dream was and is to have all of these governments kind of isolated among themselves, allowing the other governments to do whatever the hell they want to their people.
Right. Get a clue, folks. Really. And by the way, the brink wasn't made by some left-wing group. The brink came about because the other thing you got to love about the right wing is their egos are so massive.
Right.
They bring the filming crews with them.
Right.
To literally, show every little aspect of what they're doing. They've done it before. He did it. They had a meeting before the insurrection in a parking garage and brought video crews that showed them planning the insurrection. People, get a clue, okay?
Steve Bannon brought someone, I don't know if it was it from ProPublica? I think it was ProPublica, I'm not sure. He was a reporter, sat in the room with Steve Bannon and some well-known international fascist leaders.
He was,
and this guy,
one of the women was from Italy.
Yes, I believe so. And her assistant or something told this guy to sit down and shut up. Basically, and he's like, I don't have to listen to you. Right. So this is the Federal Register of Executive Orders. This is a list of all of them. All orders since 1994. Biden, Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton. Search them to your heart's content. I'm not going to go.
And by the way, people, anybody who's telling you that all of this is being hidden by the government, no, it isn't. It isn't. It's all out there for you to find. But the government's not going to spoon feed it for you because they're busy running a country. But you know what? If you actually go look for information, you can find the information.
On the top, you have search. You can search for topics. That's what I did. I just put in the word measles. Okay. September 22nd, 2021. This is an executive order of the president on that date, adding measles to the list of quarantinable communicable diseases. Why would they do that? Because measles has had an uptick ever since Andrew Wakefield opened his big mouth and people stopped getting that vaccine.
Pretty much been eradicated worldwide. Yep. Andrew Wakefield's the effects of what Andrew Wakefield did was first felt in the UK, where he was a doctor at the time, when they started having measles outbreaks after, years of not having any. And, by the way, anybody who's going to tout that natural immunity thing, measles did kill children in its heyday. Yep. And you know what? The goal of public health is to see that none of that happens. You can never stop it 100%, but you just don't let it run rampant, okay, under the guise of building natural immunity. The fact of the matter is most of you nitwits don't even know what natural immunity is.
Now, the only reason I'm using this source is because it was the only one I could find that actually listed the executive orders on the first day that he did. This, again, is from the Daily Wire. This is Ben Shapiro. And the way this is worded is obviously skewed and anti.
This is perfect, though. I want you to see what the controversial actions actually are. They're controversial if you're white and men, but they're not really all that controversial.
So one of the most controversial executive orders that Biden signed unilaterally eviscerated women's sports. Author and women's rights activist Abigail Schreier wrote on Twitter, any educational institution that receives federal funding must admit biologically male athletes to women's teams, women's scholarships, etc. A new glass ceiling was just placed over girls. Now, that's not necessarily true. The executive orders only have a certain scope. You see these states putting in these laws to circumvent this, just so you know.
And they're not telling you that they're telling you something entirely differently to justify you putting them in.
Right. So this order states in part, every person should be treated with respect and dignity. Oh my God, it's the Great Reset.
That's controversial. No, that's controversial if you're on the right, because the fact of the matter is the right don't want transgendered people and gay people treated with the same level of respect as other people. They don't. It's as simple as that, okay?
So children should be able to learn without worrying about whether or not they will be denied access to the bathroom, the locker room, or school sports. Adults should be able to earn a living and pursue a vocation, knowing that they will not be fired, demoted, or mistreated because of whom they go home to or because how they dress does not conform to sex-based stereotypes.
By the way, I must say this. I never dressed in conforming to sex-based stereotypes. When I worked at my company, I spent 25 very happy years there. They were fine with that.
Right.
And again, they were one of the first companies anywhere to sign on to the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, which prevented gay people from being fired just because they were gay.
People should be able to access health care and secure a roof over their heads without being subjected to sex discrimination. And by the way, Deb can talk about that also if she would like. But let me finish this first. All persons should receive equal treatment under the law, no matter their gender identity or sexual orientation. And by the way, kids should not be denied food because their parents happen to be the same sex.
Yeah,
So
well, it happened to me.
I know. Biden signed another executive that forced the U.S. to rejoin the Paris Agreement, which, by the way, I agree with this, that they should have. They should never have lost or never have left.
I agree.
No, the Paris Agreement was and always has been a sham. It's an expensive sham for Americans, projected to cost 400,000 jobs. Well, you know what? When the Earth ceases to exist, how many jobs are we going to lose? Biden also axed the Keystone Pipeline. You know, Justin Trudeau was disappointed. That's too bad.
Yep.
And this is okay. Well, this is another one. Biden also canceled the Trump administration's 1776 commission, which sought to undo damage from propaganda like the New York Times flawed 1619 project and promote patriotism. Now,
oh no, see, patriotism is code word for racism.
Nationalism.
Yeah.
And racism.
White nationalist racism. Yep, that's code word. Sorry, folks. I'm sorry. No, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, huh? You know what? You can't deny the fact, first of all, that, let me just say this, Christopher Columbus was Italian. His actual name is Cristoforo Colombo. He came over here and stole America from Native Americans in service to Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand of Spain. None of these people were Native Americans, okay? They were interlopers on someone else's land. You can't deny that the white man who stole the land from the Native Americans also brought the black man over here as slaves. That shit can't be denied. You can create whatever fucking commission you want, and the facts remain the facts, okay?
I know. This is a pretty good CNN list of the executive orders that Biden enacted early in his right now. It shows the date, the topic, the type. Some of these are memos or proclamations or stuff like that. Most of them are executive orders, and whether or not they're reversals. So let me read a couple of these that are reversals. This is stuff that Trump did that Biden had to clean up. So reverse the 4/16/2021 reverses the Trump policy banning refugees from key regions and enables flights from those regions to begin within days. Declares that the 15,000 annual refugee cap set by Trump will be raised to a number to be determined by May 15th. I remember that, actually. So 4/1/21. This is an executive order, revokes a Trump executive order that authorized sanctions on international criminal court officials, which I'm just wondering what those court officials said or did. Just saying.
He just didn't want anybody from the United States to be held accountable, basically. That's really
February 24th, 2021. This is revoking a series of 7 Trump administration actions that had eased regulatory requirements, as well as actions that called for withholding funding from cities for allowing protests in support of Black Lives Matter, that imposed stricter work requirements to be eligible for federal welfare, and that promoted beautiful federal civic architecture.
Yeah, that was based on the Confederacy, by the way. And let me just tell you something else. That whole thing stinks of fascism, because it was okay for white America to break into the Capitol and try to overthrow the government. Am I right? Yeah. You know what? The fucking right wing can go tuck it. Seriously. I'm just so fucking sick of them.
So, well, there's a lot of these that are COVID related. that he didn't reverse, but revokes a Trump era proclamation that limited legal immigration during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, in theory, I would agree with that one, actually. Oh, this is the last one I'll read. I remember this one.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me just say something. In theory, you might agree with that, but the fact of the matter is they're just not opening the doors and letting a bunch of infected people in.
Correct.
That is not what's going on.
They actually vet them, or they
tested people. Okay. I mean, there was a mechanism for letting people in and keeping people out. Okay. So again, that was not done. We had an administration that basically downplayed the COVID-19 pandemic, unless, of course, it was politically convenient for them not to, which it was, to inflict that pain on other people. Then we became concerned with COVID. We had a president who promoted bogus cures. We had a president who downplayed the vaccine when he got it, even though he touted pouring money into it before they got it. So
right.
Spare me all of this nonsense with Trump and COVID. You know what? When you see the website, you'll see exactly what he did to make this pandemic 10 times worse than it needed to be, not only in this country, but globally.
Two more, actually. So both of them, I believe both of them are immigrant. Yep, both of them are immigration. So directs relevant agencies to ensure LGBTQ refugees and asylum seekers have equal access to protections. Requires this Department of State to lead a standing group to respond quickly to international LGBTQ human rights abuses and to report annually to Congress on those abuses. Directs agencies to review Trump administration policies and rescind those that are inconsistent within this memo within 100 days. And by the way, not every, I'm sure some countries are even more brutal than the United States when it comes to that issue. So,
yep. The right wing gets back in power again, we may have executions here too. Who knows?
Yeah. So remember this one? In February of 2021, revokes Trump's orders justifying separating families at the border and creates a task force that recommends steps to Biden to reunite those families. So
make sure you tell me how much you care about the children, though. Remind me again. Can you show me that again? Can you remind me again how much you care about the children?
All right. No, look at the bunny. Stop with the bunny. Go away. Thank you. You're gonna upset me.
Pretty cool thing, though.
Yeah, 5 significant bills and 5 executive orders. Okay, so here are the 5 laws that CNN thought were the most important. The American Rescue Plan Act and extending existing COVID programs.
By the way,
number
one Republican voted.
Yep.
To help the American people, just so you understand that.
Number 2, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And by the way, this was held hostage by one so-called Democratic legislator. So, and we'll get
Maserati
to him
Maserati
Mansion. We'll get to him in a minute. Number 3, bills to avoid a government shutdown. So 2 stopgap measures.
And by the way, who wanted to shut the government down?
The Republicans. Yep. I really think that this is a bigger deal than people think, but most people are just going to, hang out in their house or shop or whatever. But Juneteenth, National Independence Day Act. This is a federal holiday commemorating the end of slavery. Now, I don't know. You're giving a national holiday to a bunch of racists. In some cases. Then the Uyghur, which I didn't know about this, the Forced Labor Prevention Act banned imports from China's Xinjiang, I hope I pronounced that right, region, signed into law in December, bans imports unless an importer can prove the goods were not made with forced labor. So, 5 significant executive orders reversing Trump-era policies, vaccine requirements, by the way, for federal workers. He couldn't really do it for anybody else, but and he did require healthcare workers to do it, which created an uproar.
It's called fucking public health. Okay.
Yep.
Like it or not, it's an inconvenience. It's not oppression.
So Biden sought to take some actions on gun control. So remember, there has been a spike in homicides and gun violence,
but also
protecting buildings.
You're not going to get any meaningful gun legislation passed as long as the GOP is this close in terms of number of seats. So, honestly, you can't blame the present administration for everything that hasn't happened, because I honestly thought I'd seen obstruction when Obama was president. I think the obstruction has been worse.
Oh, it's ramped up.
Yeah,
it's ramped up, and it'll ramp up even more so if people. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but just imagine Kamala Harris being president.
Right.
They would ramp it up tenfold. Right. Climate target. Now, as I said, I believe I said this, Biden has been historic in terms of what he's been trying to do with the climate. And he's been taking some heat for it, because these regulations, these things he's trying to do, will affect the bottom line of some of those industries, the auto industry or whatever, manufacturing industries.
God forbid, they're not making enough money now.
No.
Yeah. It might drop their income a little bit.
And then improving government processes. We've talked about this a little bit. So he signed an order directing 17 federal agencies to focus on more than 30 key areas. Here's the thing: when you have agencies that are short-staffed or have no staff, it's kind of hard to function.
Right.
And some of these agencies, you need congressional approval on your appointees.
So, and let me just tell you, there is another article. Maybe we should toss it in. I don't know where it is now on my on my tab list, but in light of all the anti-trans stuff that's being passed,
right,
state by state by state across the country, Biden's doing what he can to help those people. What's with things that are within his control.
Yes.
So he signed some executive orders there to help the transgender community. And you know what? You can call it whatever you want. You're free to call it whatever you want. From my perspective as a gay person with a trans kid, and having gone through a lot of shit when I was young, and having fought personally for my rights, not only as a woman, but as a gay person, I can tell you this. This is not okay. We all work here and contribute to the society. We all pay our taxes here. I don't care what the right wing tells you. We have a right to be here, okay? Just as much as you do. So we should probably put that in. So I'll find it for you.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of the things that they mentioned in Daily Wire. That was one of the executive orders, but he is doing what he can.
Yeah.
But you can only do so much, and the states can circumvent that with the bills that they are writing. Right. Now, as I've said, look, I'm not saying again that Biden is the end all be all and he's the best, whatever. He has been pretty effective. In my mind, to be honest with you, and he surprised me a little bit, but you can only be so effective when you have the Congress that you have right now.
Right.
So if you want a better result, you vote the people out that are giving you the bad result, such as Matt Gaetz.
Oh, he should be out just for his dating techniques.
Right. Just for his hairstyle. But Gaetz just...
He's got the grease factor going.
Yeah. I mean, I swear to God, it's like greed is good. I mean, and a cheesy
America
suit.
Shit.
Yep.
You know, America led Gordon Gekko. Remember the movie?
Yep.
People couldn't stop raving about, oh my God, he's awesome. Oh my God, what the fuck? And then they tell me they're anti-capitalist in the next breath. Stop it, okay? Shut up. No, you're not.
Gaetz justifies no vote on insulin cap bill by saying diabetics should lose weight. And by the way, he didn't propose anything in terms of school lunches or programs to help people feed themselves. So and the bottom line is, when you're poor, you're not looking for nutrition, you're looking to fill your belly.
Yeah. So let me just say something about that.
Yeah.
Anytime you go to a food pantry, they load you up on shit like mashed potatoes,
yep,
pasta, rice, stuff that's going to fill your kids' stomachs. And I know this from experience. Your family, when you're on the streets or you're homeless, you don't have a fucking choice. You either feed your family or you don't feed your family. So the reality of this is that not every person in this country has diabetes because they don't do the right thing. There are genetic factors as well. And this is, again, let's go right back to the fact that the GOP continually ignores scientific evidence and medicine in their proclamations about just exactly why we don't need to lower the insulin cost. We don't need to lower the insulin cost because they don't want to piss off their benefactors. And it's
exactly
as simple as that.
Pre-diabetes in America's youth, following a concerning trend, rates among children have more than doubled in 20 years. And children, typically, they are given the food that they're given, So this was very recent. This is what kills me about the American people. You have a bill, or you have legislation that is helping the people. Republicans kill the bill. And then, because one Democrat voted against the bill, the American people then want to vote for the Republicans who didn't vote for the bill in the first place. So let's
again, let me just say this. The child tax credit, the man who put the kibosh on that was Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell.
Okay, so get a clue, all right? Get a clue, okay? I understand Manchin didn't vote in favor for it. That's one guy, one. There is not one person on the other side of the ledger that voted for this. Okay, not one.
So killing the child tax credit is a middle-class tax hike in disguise. That's Bryce Fuller. This is an opinion piece, but here's the Business Insider. This was John Dorman a couple days ago, I think it was. So we had Democrats lost a 12-point edge among voters who received expanded child tax credits. And now the GOP holds a lead when they didn't vote for the damn thing.
The people who killed it now hold the lead. If ever there was a reflection on the stupidity of the American people, that article is it. Okay? Sorry, folks. I call it the way I see it. You're morons.
McConnell thinks what this country needs is more hungry children. Now, James Carville is not my favorite person in the world, but him slamming the opposition to the child tax credit is
Right.
the appropriate thing to do in this case. So Mitch McConnell's the one who killed it. I just want people to understand. So before I end this, I want people to know that this is what I am going to be talking about next week. I'm going to be talking about what is being dubbed the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida and how states are latching onto it and expanding it. Not only are they doing Don't Say Gay, they're not saying Don't Say Gay in Alabama, for example. They're not saying Don't Say Gay from K to third grade anymore. Now they're saying from kindergarten to fifth grade. Now they're saying biological boys have to go to the boys' bathroom, biological girls have to go to the girls' bathroom. Then they're extending it to all sorts of different issues. And there are some states who are also extending it to CRT. Just so you know.
Yep. So let me just read this paragraph to you here while you got it up.
Yep.
In just a few months of families receiving payments, data showed how the enhanced child tax credit helped. Financial instability fell, more children had enough to eat, and some parents were even able to work more. What's wrong with that? You got a problem with that? You know what? Here's the thing, okay? All of this bullshit, we have all of these bills being filed because we care so much about the children. You know what? The GOP doesn't give a flying fuck about your children. And the sooner you admit that, the better off you'll be.
Yep. I'm going to give all of the viewers, if they are willing to take this assignment, some homework.
Oh, they won't. No, they won't.
I know.
I have little to no faith that anybody will actually do this.
I know you'll look at it. Marcy will probably look at it. And Sarah will look at it. This is the actual bill. You want to talk to me about the bill? Read the bill. Personally, this looks like a standard bill, but it's not, because the way it's being spun by the Florida politicians, it's pretty insidious, actually.
That's my new name for Florida, the sinkhole state.
Now, if you want to go farther, you can read the Alabama House bill. Okay, which, as I said, expanded it. All right.
Hey, Ivy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's another fucking, yep. People you love to hate. She's on my people I love to hate list. I have one of those too, right in my blotter. A list of people I love to hate.
So while, there we go. I was going to say, while it's hanging. So we're going to put all this information in there. Feel free. Feel free to
read. Remember reading? Remember what that was like before memes? Remember that? Reading? Looking at shit? Making sure you knew what the hell you were doing before you started spreading it around social media? Yeah. Remember those days? Reading, writing, arithmetic, some of the basics of education. God forbid.
All right. So I got to wait a minute, but what I want to say is that a lot of this legislation was based on proposed curriculum. Okay, so who do you think proposed the curriculum? One of the groups is the Human Rights Council.
That's HRC. I used to work for them. The Human Rights Council. They're an LGBT group. But that Welcoming Schools program is fantastic.
So I ask people to take a look at it. For some reason, all of a sudden, I'm starting to get like hang-ups and stuff. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So this is one page of it, Welcoming Schools. Okay, affirming gender in elementary school, social transitioning. Oh, God have mercy. This is grooming.
Yeah, no, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
You know what? Let me just say this. Your kids, no matter where they are going to be seeing all of the stuff that goes on in the world. Okay. You know, I went to Catholic schools for 14 years. I saw some shit, man, that maybe people didn't think went on in Catholic schools. But you know what? Whether or not you teach your children about this or the school teaches your children about this, the fact of the matter is, as of today, in today's society, children are experiencing sexual relations at ages as young as 13. So in my opinion, they need to understand what that's all about. And they certainly need to be told to not do it at that age. We get that. But whether they won't do it at that age, you're not going to be able to be with your kids 24/7. I do believe that, knowledge is power, and kids need to know how to protect themselves, not just if they're going to have sex, but from predators. Okay.
Yep.
This is not grooming, and kids, whether you like this or not, are going to be exposed to children in their school districts that have same-sex parents. Okay. Whether you like it or not.
A large percentage of those who assault children are older children. They need to know how to handle that when a child tries to bully them or worse. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of this. Okay. This is standards and this is the youngest standards that they have. So please tell me if this is inappropriate. Just a few of these, and you can go through all of them. By the end of second grade, students should be able to describe the characteristics of a friend, define bodily autonomy and personal boundaries. Nobody should touch me in bad places or private, my private parts or whatever. Define consent. Okay. Identify different kinds of families: nuclear, single parent, blended, adopted, foster, same gender, interracial.
They are out there. Okay. Unless, of course, the right wing is successful in making this an all white straight society.
Right.
Then they'll have to be warned about that.
By the end of second grade, students should be able to list medically accurate names for body parts, including the genitals.
Good idea.
So that you can say, hey, they touched my
right
vagina. They touched my...
Right. I'm sorry, folks. There's no shame in knowing your body parts, okay? Jesus Christ. Fucking, I just can't.
I don't know, Deb. That might be grooming.
My kids knew it. I groomed my own children, just so you know.
Yeah. So, oh yeah. I'll show that. Why not? Those two guys that you see on the screen, they put body armor in somebody and shot them and killed them.
Where? Where are they? I don't see them.
Oh, okay. I guess that didn't show. Remember that story I showed you?
Oh, the two kids.
The two, yeah.
Yeah. So they put on body armor and they shot at each other with guns until one of them was dead. Probably because they thought that body armor was going to protect them from everything. Maybe we should be teaching them about that. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't. Let's just get them guns. What the hell?
Get them guns, put them in front of a building. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying that, I encourage everybody to really look at that welcoming schools thing. And, should you feel very strongly about that being grooming, you are free to come on this stream. All you got to do is send me an email to get a link. The email is factivist.project@gmail.com. And we'll be happy to debate this with you at any time. But, again, all of this oppressive legislation, all of this nonsense that's going on in this country right now is all about, I can't help but feel this is election posturing. And it's doing real damage to people. And that's the thing that people don't understand, is that the GOP doesn't give a fuck what kind of damage it does, as long as it wins power. And it is, again, them pandering to their base. That's what they're doing.
I have one last thing to say. I mean, as someone who was a student teacher, I didn't pursue it farther than that, but I saw this. Teachers are mandated to report potential abuse. Yep. Okay, so you're getting to this place in which they're put in an extremely tricky situation, because you're basically taking the tools away from them to teach the kids how to protect themselves, and teaching them to come to people and trust them enough to say, hey, this is going on. And I will say, I will say this real quick. I protected myself from a very bad situation when I was a 5-year-old kid. And I screamed fire to the top of my lungs, and teacher came running and protected me. So, and I remember it, I remember it was traumatic, but I remember that. That's what people should be. They're not teaching, like just these. They're not teaching this stuff in depth. They're just, what do you do to protect yourself? What's the name of your parts? What do you say when somebody touches you there? Someone touched my penis, whatever it is.
We don't worry about Matt Gaetz taking 17-year-old girls across state lines being a problem, but we worry about what teachers are teaching kids about their body parts. Let me just say that in this country, right, you always have an opt-out for everything. So my feeling is, none of this shit should be banned by this ridiculous legislation. Any parent at any time can sign a piece of paper and opt out of any of it. You don't want your kid to know this, then your kid doesn't know this. Let them stay ignorant, okay? Whatever you want them to do. If you want them to be in the ignorant zone, in the pretending that nothing is here but my little nuclear family, then you have that freedom to do that. But by banning it, you're oppressing everybody else who doesn't want their kids that way. I don't want my children sheltered like that. I don't. Including, by the way, library books, and certain libraries of elementary schools that I worked in, whether volunteered or whatever, after school programs and stuff, libraries would have little sections where parents would have real problems with certain books, and they would have them behind their desk or whatever, and kids who weren't who weren't those kids of those parents could check those books out. Right.
Don't punish everybody because you don't want your kid to read a certain book.
You know what? Do your fucking job as a parent, all right? But don't expect the system to do your job for you, because that's oppressive, okay? Let me just say this. I did not want my kids in high school, and my kids in high school did not want to be approached by the military recruiters, which, by the way, was written into the No Child Left Behind law. Just so you understand how this shit happens, okay? To me, having military recruiters talking to juniors and seniors in high school is far more damaging than my children knowing their body parts, okay? So I opted out of that. My children could receive no texts and no visits from anybody in that school. I opted out. I did not expect that to not happen, but I knew I could keep my kids from it, and I did keep my kids from it. So you can opt out of anything you want. The problem is,
except for vaccinations.
Vaccinations. But except for, aside from these draconian laws that are being passed, you know what? These aren't about freedom. They're about oppression. Get a clue. The right wing is not about your freedom.
By the way, the transgender swimmer that recently competed won one event. I can't remember how many she actually competed in.
I think it was 5.
I think it was 5. She came in last and won, and but competed. What's the problem? What's the problem?
There isn't any problem. It's made up. I'm telling you. I'm tired of saying it. You know what? I can't account for the American people's gullibility. I don't know where this all went, where it all went awry, but apparently now investigating shit is no longer in vogue. Reading is no longer in vogue. Facts are no longer in vogue. And I feel sorry for this country on a large scale. But nevertheless, like I said, that's why they taught you how to read. You know what I mean? So you want to use it.
Right. And please stop. I mean, somebody who was on my, who's like a Twitter friend of mine, and I actually streamed with them in the past. You don't know him, but I streamed with them in the past. Stop talking this nonsense about grooming. The teachers are not grooming the kids. I'll get into it. Stop it. There are abusive people in every industry. Okay, there are abusive teachers, abusive principals, every industry, but it's not a systemic issue. And the people who are being oppressive are the assholes who are making these accusations, like Deb's favorite blonde bimbo, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marsha Blackburn's another one.
Right.
Dimwit, okay? Seriously.
I don't typically use that word, but Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No, look at all bets are off for me now. They're using Jihad Squad on
right.
on the Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I feel absolutely no qualms about using the bimbo squad on Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Marsha Blackburn.
Can I please say one more thing? I've seen a couple of things with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party and the American people, by the way, also need to get their heads out of their ass and stop fighting amongst each other. Okay? We have one common goal: to get rid of at least the extremist Republicans. That's the first goal, and to reverse some of this crap that they have put in and stop this before it goes too far and goes to the Supreme Court. We need to stop it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just take a quick, see if I can take a quick trip through the website.
Yep.
So it's changed a bit. I changed up the way some of the stuff was laid out. It was bothering me. This is not changed. This is all the same material that you saw at the beginning. The front page is not going to change. The about, none of this has actually changed. That's all the same. You get into the danger zone. There's some stuff here now that wasn't here before. This is Misinformation Nation. And it just talks about, where it starts. The memeing of America. And I did put in a slider here with some of my favorite ridiculous memes. What if I told you that The Matrix is a fucking movie? Okay, that's what it is. These are some of my favorite memes. Some of the most ridiculous shit. That's
hilarious. Given the fact that Warnock's in Georgia, you want to call him a freaking radical?
This is one of my favorites. Where were all those Democratic riots in 2020? I don't remember any of them, actually.
Jesus Christ.
So anyway, I did say that memes do have their place, but you know what? They're far too prevalent. I used to be able to go on social media and actually have discussions with people. Now when people comment on my posts, they post a meme. What the fuck?
Yep.
What the fuck is that? You know, I'm sorry, I can't have a discussion with that shit. That's just garbage to me.
Right.
These are some of the, you know, to me, some of the worst propaganda that was ever perpetrated on the American people. You know, the birth of bullshit. You know, and it wasn't just about, you know, where Obama was born, and it didn't stop after he, after he sent out his long form, you know, and then when they couldn't get any more traction from that, they pivoted to another birth of bullshit issue, which was Michelle Obama being transgender. So, you know, it's been crazy. The whole demonizing of Anthony Fauci. I suggest that I'm not going to read all this to you. You guys are going to have to look at the website. The third ridiculous thing was Pizzagate, from start to finish. Amazing that, you know, people, you know, like Glenn Greenwald says, you know, words don't hurt. Well, you know what? That's a lie, because some guy with an AR-15 walked into college believing all of that nonsense and literally shot the place up while kids were there eating lunch. Okay? Get a clue, people. Words do matter, okay? And lies do matter, and propaganda does matter.
I forget. Were people actually injured?
Nobody was injured.
People said nobody was hurt, right? Okay.
Nobody was injured.
I know we did a piece on that a while back.
But by the way, I did go to Comet Pizza, and I did go to the basement. There are no tunnels. There are only ping pong tables. Okay, and a bathroom. So, and I did try to push on the walls, you know, just to be sure I was right. Okay, so that is where we got to on that section. Is I think there's a little more here though. Right, Misinformation Nation, and then we go into COVID-19 misinformation.
Right. This
is honestly. As of the day I wrote this, which was the 1st of April, it is now the 10th, there were 1,007,320 people dead in the United States alone. They actually estimate the worldwide numbers to be more in line with 14 million, because many countries were not counting at the beginning. The Trump administration did not only ignore warnings, they spread misinformation, which made the pandemic worse. You know, these are the lies that he told. You know, we knew nothing. Nobody knew there would be a pandemic or epidemic of this proportion. That's a lie. They had a 69-page report, which one of the administration officials basically said they just threw on a shelf. And Mitch McConnell said there was no report either, and later he had to retract it. Wasn't
Agenda 21, wasn't that the World Economic Forum?
Yes, it was. They did. This is where this pandemic thing came out of.
Yeah.
And no, yeah. They didn't drop the virus on the country at that forum either.
No, what they did, and by the way, they had these forums from time to time to plan what would happen if something like this happened. I think it was.
This happened after the Ebola outbreak.
Yep.
This was in response to the Ebola outbreak.
Well, they did one prior to the first SARS
Right.
with Obama, I believe.
Yep.
But and by the way, it wasn't a bat. I think it was something like a wild boar in South America or some crap
Right.
I mean, it's made up, but it's realistic enough to where it's like, all right, what happens? What do we do if we do this? But by the way, there are supply chain issues. There are delivery of medical supply delivery issues. There were all sorts of crap. And for people to, and you know what, we fell into it too. For people to say, oh, they're planning something big to control us through the supplies of blah, blah, blah.
You know what? Let's
No.
fast forward to right now.
Yes.
There are no mandates. Masks are gone. Everything's gone. So
Right.
that flies in the face of all of the bullshit that everybody's been spewing. And believe me, your actions had nothing to do with having that shit dropped. Okay? Your actions, the convoy, the big con, they had
All
nothing
right.
to do with any of that shit. Nothing. All right? We had some wishful thinking, Trump's proclamation, it's going to just disappear. How did that work out for him? Americans will have access to vaccines relatively quickly. He was corrected not only by Anthony Fauci, who said that we will be able to have testing quickly, but by his own freaking Health and Human Services secretary corrected him on that one. Outright lie number one. I've always known this is real. This is a pandemic. I felt it was a pandemic long before it was called a pandemic. I've always viewed it as very serious. Lie. His nose gets 6 inches fucking longer after he uttered that one. Here's another one. The U.S. has among the lowest case fatality rates of any major country anywhere in the world. At the time he made that statement, South Korea, Russia, and Saudi Arabia and India all had lower death rates. And by the way, the Trump administration inherited an obsolete test for COVID-19. The Trump administration didn't inherit any test for COVID-19 because there wasn't COVID-19 before the Trump administration. And there's a really nifty little timeline here that you can access. It's interactive, so you can have some fun with that. And then
Now, when this first hit, were they trying to test and figure out if people were infected using SARS? You're using SARS technology, or
I actually don't remember that. I just know that.
I think it might have, but I mean, you can't, just use that for vaccinations. I know that. Let's see here.
Well, it's based on the SARS.
Correct. That's why I'm asking, because it's based on SARS. Yep. All right.
So let me just keep going while you look. Then we get into Trump enablers. We get into the disinformation dozen. You can visit the people who actually produced this report, the Center for Countering Digital Hate. You can also download the report right from this website.
Right.
Endangering the public health for publicity and profit. So I go through the names here that are on the disinformation dozen are right here. But there are other people that were instrumental in this. Andrew Wakefield, Judy Mikovits, Thomas Rentz. People are still spreading this guy's bullshit on Facebook now.
Yeah.
Okay. He's another fucking bottom feeding attorney, like RFK Jr. All right. And this guy, by the way, it took him five attempts to pass the bar. He has very little litigation experience. He is an opportunist. If you look at his website, there's a link to his website here. If you have a practicing attorney, you don't need a donation button. You need a donation button if you're a political entity, and that's what he is. America's Frontline Doctors and the United Medical Freedom Super PAC. So we go through them. Let me get back up to the top. We're going to have something on this. This is not right now. It's in a state where a partial verdict has been rendered. I believe the other two gentlemen will be retried. There is already one guy behind bars for this, the attempted kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer. The issue is that they believe that the FBI entrapped them, even though people who testified said that nobody twisted their arm. So we're going to see where this goes. But the fact of the matter is, anytime you have a militia like the Wisconsin Wolverines or Michigan Wolverines, whatever they were called, trying to abduct the governor for vaccines and mask mandates and shoot up her vacation home, it just shows you how fucking extreme this country has gotten. We still have to do violence. We're going to do Kenosha. We're going to do Unite the Right rally. That's where all this mess started. We're going to do the big lie, and we're going to do J6 right there. Then we get into ideologies. Originally, I had these under ideologies. These aren't ideologies. These are the result of ideologies. So we've moved that. Ideologies is going to be, Christian nationalism, white supremacy, anti-Muslim. We're going to put the ideologies here. The fascist agenda is going to be the blocking of CRT, overturning Roe v. Wade, oppressing undesirables. That would happen to be anybody who falls outside the realm of what is approved by white America. Dismantling the public health system. Right now, Rand Paul has a bill. He's so obsessed with getting rid of Anthony Fauci that he's got a bill to break up the CDC, which would effectively kill public health in America. I'd like to see exactly how this is going to work with the next pandemic. We have voter suppression, and we have the dismantling of public education. That is definitely on the right-wing docket. Then we get into the players. We do have some stuff here to show you. So the first group is Donald Trump and his inner circle. These are the people who brought you all kinds of bad shit, including, the election was stolen. So right now, the people we have here are Steve Bannon, Ivanka Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Lynn Wood, Roger Stone, Mark Meadows, Michael Flynn, and John Eastman. These are all the people that are under investigation as part of the insurrection and the overturning of the election. Then we get into activist groups. I've got, these are going to be the ones we focus on here. America First Foundation, the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, the Constitutional Sheriffs, and the Patriot Front. So America First is completely done. It's got all kinds of stuff here. It's got actual quotations. It's got videos showing Nicholas Fuentes for what he actually is. And every group that's listed will get this level of coverage pretty much. I just have the beginnings of all the rest. The Oath Keepers. I don't have the actual guts done yet.
Right.
I'm going to work on this as soon as we're done. The Proud Boys. And there'll be others, they may be smaller. The Constitutional Sheriffs, I consider this group really dangerous. We're going to talk a little bit about them. We're going to talk a lot about them, actually. And then the Patriot Front, which I actually haven't got much of anything done yet. I was working on that just before we started. So I'll get back on that tonight. And we're going to go into corporations that have funded the very legislators who voted to overturn the election. We're going to talk about the media.
Right.
Fox is going to be front and center on that because they're the big granddaddies of misinformation. Everybody has basically learned from them. And then we're going to have these general benefactors or people who are kingmakers, as we call them, that donate vast sums of money to the right wing. We get to the pipeline, Arizona's done.
Well, it's never done, but the initial
done for now.
I mean, Jesus Christ, they're gonna unleash a clown car.
Have many more fucked up people running in your state. You know, Wendy Rogers, Carrie Lake, Ron Watkins, who was actually potentially QAnon himself. Mark Fincham running for Secretary of State so he could steal the election. Kelly Ward and Anthony Kern, who was actually fired from the El Mirage Police Department after lying to a supervisor about a case. But don't worry about it. He's going to run for District 20 state senator now. He's good. You fucking can't make this shit up, but you don't have to.
Right.
We're going to have, you know, Texas, Florida.
Yep.
Where else? Idaho, Utah, New Hampshire. We're going to talk about all the big wig states, and then we're going to have, you know, a section that shows, you know, there's at least anywhere between 1 and 4 extremists running in every fucking state.
Yep.
I showed you this last week around. This is our vision. These are the rights. I did put some graphics in there to make them pretty so that they wouldn't be, you know, just sitting there on the page. Then we have our glossary. 2chan, 4chan, 8kun, 1488, alt-right, anti-fascism, anti-government extremism, anti-Semitism, blue, red, and black pill, Christian national, you know, conspiracy theory. You know, it goes all the way through alphabetically to xenophobia. And I will be adding as we go along.
Yep. Yep.
And then there's contact us, basically. Want to get on the mail list? Want to hear from us? Want to fight? If you do, you know what? You can go right to this website right now because there is a holding page up and you can sign on immediately. But my goal is to post this next week live. And
Yep.
I have been struggling with this because this is, you know, I work 30 hours a week. So literally I get home at maybe 5:30 at night. I eat my dinner. And then I usually work in this website from, say, 6:30 to 11:30 at night. And it's a huge amount of work. It is, I have 75 tabs up on my Google Chrome browser, and I have 5
Right.
browsers up that are like that.
Yeah.
All of this information has to be vetted and checked. And the links in those stories need to be vetted and checked. And that's what's taken so long. But it's a huge task and it's never going to be done. So I want to get it to the point where I can put it up. And then what I'm going to do is put together a schedule for when it'll be updated. And it'll probably be updated once every other week.
Yep.
It will come down on, say, a Sunday. And I'll spend the entire day Sunday working on the site. And I'll let you guys know when this is posted, how that's going to work out. But that's,
So
that's right now.
when you update, are we gonna like skip a week for the show, or you go like work on it and then we'll do the show and then?
No, we're not going to skip the show.
Okay.
All day until the show.
Right. Can I just say,
Yeah.
Nick Fuentes is a slime of a human being. Deb showed me a video of him comparing Jews to cookies being put in an oven.
Unbelievable.
I mean, my God. If you can't, I mean, I think you should probably put that video in.
If you bake this many cookies over 5 years, you really can't bake 6 million cookies. You can only maybe bake 300,000. You know, what the fuck is wrong with people? I just can't. You know, I don't understand the American people. I just don't. I don't. It's not so much him. We know evil exists in the world. What I can't wrap my head around is the Americans. I'm going to kill this guy. He doesn't stop dinging in on me. I didn't mean it that way, but you know, I'm not going to kill him. In 5 minutes. You know, he knows I'm on a stream. Okay.
Next, James O'Keefe talks about Deb Della Piana killing someone on. Yeah.
But anyway, you know, I can't wrap my head around the American people just, you know, either believing him, listening to him, or just thinking, oh, he's just a crank. He's not a crank. He's got millions of followers. What the fuck is wrong with you people? I mean, if you think this is all just going, you all thought this was just going to go away when Trump left. I don't know how you thought that either, because he literally infected this entire country with evil while he was here. So you people better wake up, because that prevailing attitude that it can't happen here, you know, we've proven in other parts of the world that it can happen here. So we need to wake up.
And one more thing before we go, stop with the lesser of two evils shit. Evil is really evil right now.
Right.
Let's get rid of the right-wing extremists, please. You know, we can talk about all the other shit once we take care of the elephant in the room.
Right.
Okay. We haven't forgotten about all of the other systemic issues, but we have to deal with this first.
They are a systemic issue right now.
They are.
Okay.
They are the systemic issue.
They are
right this second.
With these laws, they are literally legalizing fascism in this country. I warn you, this was not, everybody was talking about the Democrats doing this. This isn't the Democrats. You're looking at what's happening in real time. If you look at the states where this is happening, they are not Democratic states. And by the way, I would like to point out one other thing that we're not going to put in here, but I want to raise the specter. We have had nothing but people saying just how bad law and order is under the Democrats. Am I right? It was just a study put out that proves that violent crime is the highest in states run by Republicans. And I will make sure that I include that in my next personal video. But, you know, when you do studies and you have statistics, you know, as my little thing says right here, can you see this? We have charts and graphs to back us up, so fuck off. Yep, there you go. We do. So that's it, guys. I'm going to kill this, not literally. I'm just killing. And I want
don't kill the alpaca.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll talk to you guys. We'll talk to you guys later. I'm killing the recording now.